You have decided to study abroad. Congratulations. And I mean, look at you. You are so unique. You are so complex. There are so many paradoxes. You have so many ambitions. You have so much baggage, but in a really interesting way. And you have a vision of the world that is new, unlike anything anyone has seen before. Great. Now put all of this into 1,000 words. No, yeah, it seems impossible. Don't worry. After this episode, it will seem very much possible. Welcome to a new episode of Flywire Presents Make It Make Sense Fees, Finances, and Foreign Lands. And in today's episode, we have two guests who live and breathe this stuff that you know nothing about and they know everything about. We have Ankita, the founder of Education Street. She has spent 16 plus years in the industry facilitating journeys of countless students abroad. We also have Viraj, who is an international education marketing expert who has helped multiple UK universities make a mark in South Asian markets. Welcome, both of you. You know, this sitting with people who, someone who oversees admissions or is involved in admissions in some way for a university, and someone who helps people get in and strengthens their application. I'm really getting a nostalgia that is making me a little nauseous, a little nostalgic, because when I was applying to universities in the US, I would spend hours and hours on this website called College Confidential, which was student forums, all students posting. And the most popular post there would be an archetype of a post called Chance Me posts, in which people would be like, "Hi, I'm an applicant from here. These are my scores. This is my entrance exam. This is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. This is how much I've scored. Will I get into this university?" And it's other nervous, anxious students who I'm competing with, who will give me solutions. So I'm so glad to have two people who can speak about this with some credibility. So yeah, quickly, I just want to ask you, Ankita, what makes an application stand out when there are so many to choose from?
Yeah, it's a very valid and a very important question for students who are listening to this. I feel your application stand out if you have done the groundwork, and which means doing the work way before you're actually you're going to put up your application.
Correct.
So it's always based out of three pillars. One of them being the academics. Academics is something which is like oxygen. It has to be there.
Right.
You can't take it away. So if someone comes to you and say, "Ki, I'm not an academics well, but I'm a sports player," and whatever genre and stuff, it doesn't work always.
Correct.
And stuff. So academic excellence is really, really important and critical, and that plays a major role of the application. Second comes in is your test scores. Your test scores is basically, it depends on which country you're going in, but SATs at undergrad levels, GMAT or GRE at master's level, and PhD also may require a GRE or a GMAT and stuff, depending on what PhD you're looking out for. And of course, IELTS and TOEFL to prove your English proficiency.
Yeah.
So these test scores become very evident and important to, again, stand out your application among the thousands which have come across. And the third pillar is basically your extracurriculars. That's your story. That's your personal signet,
Right.
I would say.
Correct.
It's a signet which actually proves and gives that, authenticity to yourself.
Correct.
And say here it could be your hobby, like you love hiking, you go for badminton, you do music, you have done some robotics, you have done some courses, internships, many much more things, which comes into extracurriculars. However, not all is supposed to be done.
Of
It is
course.
going to be, it should apply that, what you are looking forward to,
Right.
do, what you like doing.
Right.
So your story into it. So these are three pillars which together match up to, build up your application for, the Ivies and the premium universities, and that's how you stand out.
Right.
So all this cannot be done just a year prior when you have to apply to the university.
Right.
It has to be done way before, and that's the major mistake which a lot of parents and students, do, that they go out to, do all these things when actually the application is right there. The
Right.
deadline is just there.
Right.
So yes, these three pillars, if accounted well, done well, I think you have a lot of chances to, crack through the Ivies and whatever your dream university is.
Right. There are people watching this who are a month away from their application deadline and who are just starting? Is there any hope for them?
So I would say, being a counselor and being a positive person myself, I'll never let anybody's hope go away.
Correct.
There might be compromises. Let me be very honest. There might be some compromise that you'll have to do on choosing the university or choosing, what is missing in your profile. So in that case, you have to do the groundwork and understanding and running by the strategy about
Got it.
what universities want and what your profile will do over there.
Got it.
So that strategy is very important, and hence the mentor plays a very important role now here. A counselor does a very important role here, because the child can't do anything right
Correct.
now. It's just a month away. That
Correct.
means the documentation will only take that much
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So saying this, the strategy of the mentor that you have chosen plays a very critical role here.
Got
So
it.
yes, there is still some hope, but it may require some compromise.
Got it. Got it. Viraj, I have a question. Yeah.
Can I just add to what she's
Please.
saying? Yeah, all the academic achievements, the test scores, and your extracurricular activities all are important. But also one of the most important parts of the application is your personal statement. Right? So personal statement is where an applicant gets an opportunity to talk directly with the admissions team
Right.
or the course director, who
Right.
is finally going to make the decision on your application.
Correct.
The personal statement, it just humanizes the whole application. It gives the applicant an opportunity to highlight their skills,
Yeah.
right? Their passion
Yeah.
for the subject. It also demonstrates communication skills.
Absolutely.
It just explains the story.
Correct.
And that's one of the key things that also the course directors are in fact keenly looking at
Yeah.
when they are making a decision on a particular application.
Absolutely. Because I can imagine that for a top university, 70% of their applicant pool is academically competent enough to get in. They have all the right test scores, all the right academic history. But after that, then how do you stand out? So personal essays, SOPs, that's one way. My next question is that what if I'm an applicant who's like, okay, in this essay, they'll get to know me, but I think I'm not worth getting to know. Like, I'm half kidding, but also there are many students who are applying who are dealing with like, is this worth it? Am I going to get in? So like issues of like self-worth, self-esteem, all of these come in the way while applying as well. So how does one keep these aside while also managing to portray themselves in the best way possible without bragging, but without like underplaying it too much? So there are lots of like balances, things that need to be balanced,
So I think it's more what you're talking about is also the anxiety issue which the students have,
Right.
because yes, we may feel little less of ourselves at every point. Even if you have done, you may still feel little less about yourself.
Correct.
So as a counselor, I always recommend students to first start the essay writing as a very messy project.
Right.
Don't think it's going to be very flowy and it sounds like a best story in the picture and stuff that way. Don't hold those high expectations at the start.
Correct.
Get scribbling. Have the things that you have done, your journey, understand yourself more better to reflect and bring that into the topic, that why you're going for a master's in business, or why you're going for a PhD,
Correct.
or why you're going for a bachelor's in computer science.
Correct.
There has to be a concept to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just not because I want to go to America or I want to go to UK.
Correct.
And this is not what you just mention it out there.
Correct.
So you need to start your journey over there. Certain prompts we give to the students, what all you can include in it. Then they get those content, we brainstorm, and actually the student who has to do the essential work of getting all these things, because it may sound very little, like I have participated in the MUN chapter or I participated in certain certification or certain competition. They feel very little about it because they have not won the title.
Correct.
They've not done it.
Correct.
But even participating and getting that experience for an admission officer or for the university is a good lookout.
Something,
Because there's somewhere they see the hustle in the child, they see the exposure the child is trying to get through. So not that the admission officer sitting there across is always looking for your medals and charts and your accomplishments. They're also looking at your failures as well.
Correct.
They're also looking at that, there was a student of mine who spoke about his issues about his body weight. and how body weight was something wherein, he felt very, shamed about, and, he felt very embarrassed about it, and how he worked towards fitness, and how he got into what he desired to do, that not because of society, because he wished to do. And that was something which we started in our essay.
Correct.
Correct. And that's exactly how the admission officer looks forward, that,
Correct.
you're talking your personal story. They're not looking for that I'm a national champion into this and that.
Yeah.
They're not looking for those things. So
Yeah.
I think I would recommend that start messy,
Got
and don't get the anxiety play over and not do the work.
Yeah.
Just get going.
So it's fascinating that a student needs to be authentic in their personal essays, but this authenticity on some level is manufactured, because like you're getting it down on a piece of paper. So in your experience or in your understanding, how does an admissions officer look at how genuine an essay is? Look at if the person is real or not.
Good question, but admissions officer, because they're reading through so many SOPs in a day, their eyes are trained to
Right.
I agree.
distinguish,
Right.
a genuine SOP to something that's sort of written to impress. He needs to explain his journey to someone he has not met before,
Right.
but someone who would probably have, key to his future.
Correct.
So it really needs to start with these 4 points, which is why a particular course, why that particular institution or university, why now, and why, more importantly, why you.
Perfect.
In terms of your question about, sort of distinction between strong and a weak SOP, a strong SOP will have certain characteristics, right? Certain parameters. It will be, it will sound like an authentic voice. When you read the SOP, you feel that someone's actually reading it out to you.
Correct.
It will also have a clear sense of purpose.
Right.
It will have, concrete examples, like if they've done extracurricular activities, so on and so forth. It will also have a consistent narrative, right? Your past, your present, your future, how everything is linked to the course that you want to apply to. So it just feels like a story rather than just a resume.
Right.
For example, when you read an SOP, something like, I come from a business background, and my father has an industry, so I always knew that I'm going to join him. So I did a business management course. But later on, when I joined my father, I realized how important, say, a digital marketing or social media marketing was in that particular organization. And then I had to work with social media marketing teams. I do a couple of sort of projects, but I could clearly see my shortcomings.
Right.
And that's how I wanted to learn more about digital marketing side, and that's how I applied for, say, a master's in digital marketing.
Right.
Sounds authentic, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a story. There's a history to it.
Yeah, like everything seems like everything ever in their life before has culminated to this course. Like that's the idea that you need to portray.
And when you talk about, weak SOPs or SOPs that are typically copy-pasted from internet and so on and so forth.
Or like AI.
Or AI.
Yeah, now that is a very big thing.
Once you start reading, it's hollow inside, right? So it typically has a lot of these buzzwords like leadership, motivation, visionary.
There are people freaking out right now. All those words.
Yeah, this will own my skills.
Yeah, a lot of achievement dumps, right? I've been the top one in my class. I've won this award, that award, without even getting into the details of it.
It can't be too braggy. It can't sound like that.
No.
Yeah, this is a question for both of you. What are some other mistakes that you see in application essays and SOPs that people need to avoid?
The thing that the universities are also facing nowadays, and even we as counselors see that AI has got a lot of easy access for people to write their content,
Right.
and they think it's and it looks so good. So who would deny that option of getting it written by AI and
Correct.
stuff. So that's something which I want to say, that a lot of universities have plagiarism check and all of those things, and even AI check, like even we have AI checking tools and stuff which we run through our own students, essays and stuff before we submit it and stuff and
Right.
everything, because this is something where a word of caution has to be there, that
course.
don't use AI for building up such an important step of your life.
Yeah.
Yes, it can help you out, it can give you ideas, but don't use it per se for
Right.
all of those things. And apart from that, I would say there's a lot of other documentation also which plays a role, like apart from SOPs and essays, which we have already pointed out, but there are documents like letter of recommendations.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Letters of
So letter of recommendations is something like, probably a university may need 2 or 3. It's always from people who know you, not where your reach is. Either the person has either taught you, or you have interned, or you have, worked under, like a work professional LOR, or a sports coach, I would say in that case. And the other things is missing the deadlines. I don't know why, but people normally are not prepared to do their documentation on time. Either they have to send test scores, so they have not sent the test scores
Right.
officially
Right.
to the university. So there are a lot of elements of an application.
Correct. And one thing
There's-
you miss, you are
and it's incomplete. So it's the form filling, it's the essays, it's the documentation uploading, it's your LORs to reach on time, your transcripts which has to be official, your test scores which have to reach officially. So there are a lot of elements, and that's exactly why studying abroad is always said that you should apply way before the deadline, because
Correct.
all these steps take time.
absolutely.
See, when you see SOP, I still feel it is dependent on you, or say your mentor, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's in your control.
LOR though is coming from them,
Yeah.
their time was their
Transcripts are
schedule.
coming from them. The
Correct.
official test scores you're asking these bodies to send across
Correct.
and stuff that way. You have to pay the application fee, which is in forex,
Yeah.
in different currency. So that's exactly why all these elements to work on the right path, you need time.
Yes, yes. Viraj, what do you think makes a good letter of recommendation?
She rightly pointed out all the positives of letter of recommendation. But letter of recommendation on its own is not going to get you in, right? So,
Even if it's the best letter of recommendation, even if I get it from you for your university.
yeah, I mean, it's more of a kind of a supporting document to what your entire profile is, right? So your grades, your test scores, and your achievements, your personal statement. In those scheme of things, the letter of recommendation plays a moderate role, unless you are applying to top tier universities.
Yeah.
Right. Then it does make a difference.
Got it. Like I've gone through this experience asking teachers to send letters of recommendation, working on my SOPs, and there was a lot of waiting, a lot of like feeling like I'm helpless. So at least there is one place where I never felt helpless was while paying my fees because of Flywire. It was great. I just had to worry about nothing at all. And I wish that Flywire also starts a thing where LORs can be sent through Flywire. Because money reaches on time. My letters of recommendation, one teacher still hasn't sent it. It's been 10 years. I've graduated from a university. My English teacher still hasn't sent it. What do you think is the right mix of universities? Say if I'm applying to 10 universities, how many should be safety schools? How many should be match schools? How many should be dream schools? Like, do you have your viewpoints on that?
So I feel as a counselor, when we have this stage where we are deciding on how many universities we should apply, and out of which how many should be safe, how many should be moderate, and how many should be ambitious. That's how we categorize the universities, and it's always a mixed strategy that we play in. And typically a student, in my experience, applies to around 7 to 10 universities. Now this is a very subjective strategy or need of the student and the parent, and it's more driven by them, and of course it has to be profile driven, because otherwise the strategy won't work.
Correct.
And nowadays what I recommend student is to go multiple countries as well, so there's always a safe hand that you have a plan A and a plan B.
Right.
People consider this as a purely financial decision or purely emotional decision. It is not. It's basically a judgment call. Where you want to apply, you got to understand that there's cost involved as well, right? So when you're talking about applying to aspirational universities or top tier universities, those are not going to be cheaper, right? So you got to assess your finances. You got to sit down, calculate what the tuition fees are, what are you going to be your living expenses, your opportunity cost as well, right? and then you got to see what is the sort of funding gap after taking out the scholarships,
Right.
and your contribution by your family. And if you're going for bank loans, then obviously there's the additional burden of looking at the repayment structure and relate that with what is going to be your potential salary once you complete your course.
Got it.
So there are several factors. At the end of the day, if you feel that this cost is going to put financial stress on myself or my family for multiple years, then whether that risk is worth taking is something that you got to ask yourself.
Right.
In terms of top tier universities, clearly you're looking at academic outcomes, course outcomes, right? So whether you're getting access to the top faculties, you're getting your course has industrial links, your course has internship opportunities, and whether it's got any location benefits.
Correct.
So you got to make your choices. But this is all going to be at a premium. So at the end, you got to make sure that that passing out of certain university will substantially increase your employability.
Right.
Then you should look at those aspirational universities.
I have one more question that I wanted to ask. I've realized all the questions I'm asking are questions I needed answers to when I was applying. It's a little too late, but I still want to know about the gap year, right? Many students, especially like we talked about how when students don't have a profile, they take a gap year to do some things. I took a gap year after my 12th grade, where I worked as a prank caller for a radio station, as a cricket commentator and a few things. I also started an advertising company called Addition. Thought that was a very smart name. Every company that we represented shut down. Whatever. I'm just telling you that in a gap year, like for the first time, a kid, I feel, experiments. So I just want to ask, what are your thoughts on gap years? Is that something that should be taken? Will a university look down upon you if you are wasting time?
It's a good question. I think gap year is quite common these days. And there are various reasons why one would want to take a gap year. One would be they want to enhance their academic readiness. So, for example, if they're applying for a course in, say, software engineering, for example, they would want to do. There are a lot of these private institutes in India who offer certification programs for 6 months to a year or so.
Right.
The other reason is obviously work experience. I mean, not everyone wants to apply immediate after they graduate.
Correct.
Students get campus placements in India, and they would want to then stay back and work for a couple of years before they actually apply. And that's a good thing in a way, because in those couple of years, they would understand what sort of course they would want to do. But also students, take gap years because they want to manage, sort of work on their finances, because, education abroad is expensive.
So there are some anxious parents watching this who are like, if our kid takes a gap year, then like it's done, they're wasting time. To them, you would say that
Absolutely not. Yeah, relax. Absolutely relax. So as long as you can justify the gap year,
right,
there's no problem at all. But if it's an unstructured gap somewhere in middle, which is not really, you are not able to justify, then that does weaken your application.
Right. Let's say I'm an engineering student. I'm applying for an MBA and I have a few backs. It has taken me 4 instead of 3 years or 5 instead of 4. Do I have no hope of getting into an MBA college?
Oh, absolutely. You have. Yeah, never give up hope. It depends what kind of backs you've got, what sort of percentage that you end up with, and what universities you apply. Because if there are universities and there are universities having different entry requirements.
So anyone can apply, no matter what has happened.
Yeah,
okay, great. Also, how does one go about getting scholarships? Because already everyone's worried about, how will I get in? On top of that, you have to get money also from these universities. Like the idea of it seems really like, how can anyone be convinced? I can't convince my dad to give me 500 rupees. How do I convince this Ivy League institution to give me whatever money? How does that work?
So, scholarships is something which every parent and student want to know when studying abroad comes in picture.
Always.
Because definitely studying abroad comes with a lot of resources that you require, economically. And it's a very genuine need that, an Indian parent or a student would like to know before they're applying, that whether this university will give me scholarship or not. So saying this, it's a very critical question, but it has to be addressed in a wider genre, because scholarships in every country play very differently. The first thing which I normally tell a parent or a student is, keep scholarship, keep it aside right now. First, look at what budget you can define for yourself.
Right.
You know, it's always important to define what budget you are comfortable to spend for your child's education. After which, of course, the student's profile, applying early, or most of the scholarships are merit based. Okay, there are need based, need blind, other scholarships which people hear and they come to us and stuff. But if you hear they're need based, you have to prove whether you are below the poverty line in one of the scholarship. You have
Correct.
to prove this thing, which most of the parents won't be able to prove that. In this case also, there has to be a strategy. You're really looking for scholarship, then in that case what you have to do is that you have to play a strategy around. Say my profile is very good, I'm a student who can get into, say, a UC Berkeley or say a Oxford or many other universities. However, when I'm applying to such premium universities, I may get an admission. Getting an admission is one thing, getting a scholarship from that university, as you very rightly said,
Right.
is a second thing out
Correct.
of it. Now in this case, if the same student applies to a university a level below. So here the strategy comes in picture, that if I have to save money, I want that scholarship, it is needed for me, then the strategy can be to go for a next level university.
Got it.
There I will stand above all the other cohort which is there,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
I'm coming with a very good background.
Correct.
So in this case, this strategy works wherein, I may attract scholarship, because every university does have scholarship budget.
Correct. From what I understand, there's a degree, there's a college for everyone.
There is.
Based on their finances, based on their grades, based on their ambitions, based on their risk appetite, you will find something for yourself. So people need to give time to researching universities as well before
Correct.
applying.
It's very important that they research universities, and certainly in terms of scholarships, because universities have different kinds of scholarships.
Correct.
They are basically merit based, but in terms of amount, that could fluctuate from, say,
Correct.
if you're applying to UK universities, could fluctuate from, say, £2,000 to £15,000
Correct.
per year.
Any closing thoughts? Anything that students should know? There are probably students right now who are about to start their application. They're procrastinating. So they are online, watching podcasts. They have reached here. They're watching you. What would you like to tell them before they dive into their application?
I would say and recommend students at any stage that they are, they need to start way earlier if they're looking forward. They have to build their, I always term it as signet. That is basically your own, authentic identity. So if you build that kind of signet, or, that kind of identity, it provides you to, go out in the market or go into the university, stand apart. As I said earlier also, explore, eliminate at every stage. Just don't do when you have to apply.
Correct.
Do it way before so that you apply right. So just do it way earlier. Your every year is very critical, and that's exactly where we all talk about the competition has become so fierce. It will not be felt by you. Because
Wow.
if you have been authentic to your path and your
Right.
journey of learning, don't make it boring, make it fun. And I would say, as a signing thing, that as a counselor doing this for last 16 years, I have seen students who stand apart, not because they have been national champion in something, but because they followed what they had to do.
Absolutely.
And that's where their calling comes. That's where they do make mistakes, but that's the elimination round.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they walk the correct path.
Correct.
And that's exactly where they are now shining.
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
I completely concur with her. In terms of, students need to do their own research is so important,
Right.
and not follow the trend.
Correct.
Don't follow because your friend is doing something, you want to do the same thing.
Correct.
Because you want to stay together or
Yeah.
go together, or your uncle has done something and he's been successful in his life. No, you need to find your own niche somewhere. Put in those efforts, do research, and apply well in advance. It's so important, because as a university, we see if there's a set deadline for a particular intake, just the massive volume of applications come in just a day or a couple of days before the deadline.
Yeah.
And that is so bad, because if the applicant sort of missed out on putting certain documents at the time of application,
Yeah.
by the time the
Busted.
university assesses the application, the deadline is gone.
Right.
And we have no choice but to then defer them, in which case they would end up losing 6 months to a year.
Correct.
For nothing, right? So plan in advance, apply in advance, do your research in advance. Make sure that you start your journey at least a couple of years before you starting to think of applying to universities abroad.
Right. Students who have put all of their lives into this application are not face to face with the admission officers till they are. There might be a possible interview, which many universities, many countries have. So, very quickly, what are a few things that one should remember before going into an interview?
Most of the application decisions are made on the basis of what documents are provided. That's the reason the personal statement is so important part of the application, where you get an opportunity to explain your story to someone whom you have never met,
Right.
and that could be the course director who is going to make the final decision on your application. There would be at times the course director would want to speak to the student directly. And this again it depends on which course you apply for. For example, if you're applying for, say, a particular engineering course, the course director would want to assess the students' knowledge before accepting them on particular courses. They are looking for certain kinds of students coming into course. So basically, the interview is based on your academic knowledge of what you have done in your, say, undergraduate course. Why do you think that you are better prepared to get into that particular course, right? So it's more of, why you kind of thing. Right? The student will have to do research about the course that he is applying for, and what sort of outcomes that he's expecting out of the course. Once he's prepared with that, then he can take the interview and talk to the course director directly. But that's also great for the student as well, because he gets an opportunity to talk to this course director. Which is not there.
Interviewing each other.
Yes, absolutely. Where in most of the cases, you don't know who's going to teach you. At least in this case, you know that this is a guy I'm going to meet once I'm there. Right? So I've already made that bond.
Also, what you said, I think it also feels like an extension of what we were talking about, that on your application, be honest. Be honest. I think if you're honest and true to yourself, in the interview, you just have to be yourself, and that should.
Absolutely. It's about your own journey, right?
I think most of the interviews are also reassurance of what you've sent in the documents.
Got it.
You know,
Got it.
and they always categorize in two ways. Either they are character based, as he said, that the admission officer or the course director is taking it, and it could also be a technical interview.
Right.
Normally, when you apply, there is always an email which follows back that you have been selected. So first, be happy about that you have cleared first round.
Correct.
And you have and they're giving you an opportunity to talk to them, and they know you better.
Correct.
So saying this, and the interviewer who is going to be, and so say if it's a course director or it's
sometimes it's an alumnus. We have anticipated all the success that our students will get when they'll get into the university that they want to go to. But let's be honest, when the results come, there will be rejections. If you're applying to 10 universities, there will be rejections. It's also emotionally super overwhelming, because it's really highs and lows. You're like, oh, I got into this, I didn't get into this. I got here, I didn't get in here. Waitlisted. So it's like a lot happening. So like, how does a student deal with that? Like I've been rejected by my dream, but I have gotten into my math school. So it's like it's a lot of emotions.
So yeah, it's disheartening. I would not deny that. But I think it's also when you have not set the students' expectations right. That's why when I said in the start that we categorize universities into ambitious, moderate, and safe, that is just not names. It is about setting their expectations. Ki you would get here. Here the chances are really meek, but we are applying because it's your dream university. And somewhere we match in some components and stuff that way. So I think students have to be and parents have to be prepared well in advance to see that day. And but it's still going to be disheartening to see the rejection, because when you see a lot of videos online nowadays wherein they have the reveal days, and when they see a Harvard admit, and you're just jumping over the top, and you're recording it and sharing it, and students do see all these things. So I would not deny that it is disappointing for them, but if you set the expectations right, it may not pinch that harder. And second is something that's exactly why we apply to multiple universities. universities.
Correct.
You know, that's exactly why I go next stage and I apply for multiple countries also, because nowadays it is just not the rejection of the university, but it could be rejection of not going to that country because of your visa not coming on time and stuff. So that is something which again, you know, you have to place and take care of. And I think rejections always hurt. It may be for a student, it may be an emotional breakup,
Part of life.
it may be you know, a job you did not qualify for. So I think rejection is a part of journey for all of us till date and ahead.
Shit, you're saying rejection never ends?
It never ends.
That was the last thing from her. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you to Ankita and Viraj for providing invaluable insights into this mysterious, strange process. And it's nice knowing that on the other end of these applications, there is an actual human being who wants you to succeed. The one takeaway, the main takeaway that you should get from this is make your essays, your personal statements as you as possible, as quintessentially you as possible. The more personal it is, the weirder it is, the better. But write something that moves you, that you care about. For instance, if I had to write about something that I care passionately about or believe strongly in, I would write about, I don't know, how Flywire is the best and really the only international fee payment platform that you can use. And that was it. This was all from our end. I'll see you on the next episode of Flywire Presents Make It Make Sense, Fees, Finances, and Foreign Lands.